Most people talk about leadership like it's theory. I've lived it in the mud, the chaos, and the moments nobody writes about. This show is the truth, raw, unfiltered, and built for leaders who actually give a damn. If you're ready to grow, ready to own your own story, and ready to lead from the front, you're in the right place. Speak up, show up, lead. Let's get into it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Speak Up, Show Up, Lead. And I'm here with Chris this morning, and we're going to be talking about some New Year stuff as it pertains to whether or not you feel like you're the leader you want to be, or doing the things that you want to do. How you doing this morning, Chris?
Doing great, JJ. How are you?
Man, I'm doing extremely well. You know, I'm having what we would call in the military is a bunch of first world problems. But we'll talk about that after this call. But you know, it's good to be alive.
Awesome. Well, hey, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. Happy New Year to everyone in the audience, the people that are watching this now and watching this later. Hopefully you enjoyed this great conversation. So this one is called Are You the Leader You Want to Be in 2026? And Chris and I, we wanted to do a different series. You know, to be honest with you, a lot of people aren't talking about what you know, the goals and stuff that they usually talk about going into 2026. I've noticed usually there's stuff all over the place about it. And I understand why. I'm a firm believer that you can reinvent yourself every day. I mean, January 1st is not some magical date on the calendar, but because a lot of people typically feel that way, because it's kind of like starting the whole cycle of the year over with, we thought that this would be a great time to talk about it, and it's appropriate because there are some things going on that I mean, both with me and with Chris, that, you know, we might not announce those things personally here, but you know, it's a good time to talk about it.
Absolutely. You know, this is the time of the year, and you're right. I haven't seen a whole lot of like New Year, New Me type of posts. Doesn't mean that people aren't doing it. Maybe they're being a little more quiet about it. Maybe they're being more purposeful about it, which is really the key, right? It's to be intentional when you're setting goals and moving towards those goals in a systematic way. That's how we achieve them. And the people that think that, you know, January 1st waves a magic wand and all of a sudden you're a beautiful new butterfly and you have a whole new life, like, that's bullshit, and that's not how life works.
That's not how it works. But no, whenever you're planning on, if you're not happy with what you're doing, if you're going down a path that doesn't seem like it's your true authentic path for you, you know, it begs the question, are you leading your life the way that you feel like you should be leading your life? And if you're not, honestly, the only way that we're successful in what we're doing, no matter what it is, even if we're not happy doing it, is we have to be super intentional to do it. So why not take that approach to your own life? And that's really what this episode is all about, because when you're intentional and you are really thinking about things in a way that allow you to take steps to make actionable change in your life, then I don't know how to explain it, but a lot of things change about who you are and about the way that you think, and it's actually really cool.
Yeah. It's, you know, I've often talked about, if you want to change something, you've got to change your behaviors. Your behaviors therefore change your habits, and your habits change what you're doing on a regular basis. So it does take that intentionality and really understanding, what is it that you want to change and what's the outcome that you are really looking for. Knowing those two things with some clarity can really help you in the planning process of laying out some milestones along the way, laying out, what are the areas that I need to be measuring, because when we're talking about setting goals, right, we're looking at it through the leadership lens right now. That could apply to any different part of your life, right? That could be work. It could be volunteer work that you do. It could be within your family. It could be just you as an individual. So leadership doesn't stop at the workplace. It filters into every part of our lives. And when you don't know what it is you want to change and what the ultimate outcome is, then you're floundering. And I think that's where a lot of people get it wrong when they're trying to come up with the new year, new me goals.
Yeah. And a lot of that too is, we talk about this a lot, but self-ownership. If you're not, if things aren't going the way you want, why are those things not going the way you want? I mean, are you settling with what you're doing? I mean, is your job paying the bills and that's why you get up and go there every morning? Or are you excited to go there every morning? Do you have a specific goal in mind? Maybe it's a higher position and you've just been putting it off forever, and you would really be happy. It would benefit your family. It would benefit you. It would benefit everybody if you did that. But you really haven't been seeking that because you've just been caught in the hustle and bustle of everything. But not only that, but I mean, if you want to be a business owner, if you have this idea, you've been working on it for so long, but you have not taken action. Now it's time to reflect internally and just think to yourself, well, why am I not taking action? What can I do to make this work? And then all the stuff Chris talked about where you start setting those actionable goals, but make sure you're being true to yourself while you're going into action on these things, because change, it's uncomfortable. But think about your job. How many times does the business that you work in take necessary and intentional change all the time? You go through the motions with that. Now it's time to do this for yourself if that's what it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah,
So
so
self-ownership is a big one.
it is the self-ownership, that accountability, and understanding why. Like, why is it that I want that new position at work? Why do I want to be a business owner? Why do I want to do whatever? That's, I say this, I've said this when, I was doing leadership development. When you're communicating, the why is the most important of the 5 W's, right? What you're doing is important, but why you're doing it is the most important, because that's what gets you fired up. That's what gets other people fired up. So, understanding what's driving the intentionality of the change is really your anchor point that you're able to come back to and say, okay, I said I wanted to do this because of this reason. This is my why. So that's why it's so important to be specific about it and to be very detailed, like write down this stuff. And, I don't want to get too prescriptive right now because, we still have about 20 minutes left of the show and we may get into that. But, I think we're kind of riffing on what this series is going to be about. This series is about just getting yourself ready to lead in 2026.
Yes.
There's only going to be 4 episodes in this series. It's short. We designed it that way for a reason. That was our intention behind it, was we're kicking it off on January 3rd. It's going to be a quick hitter early in the year, get you geared up to be the leader you want to be in 2026.
Yes. And well, let's just do a quick overview. So I made something called the Voices framework. And you can use this in your job. You can use this for yourself. You can use it just overall. And I've made I've made it generic to where it can be applied in any situation. So I believe that if we're going for goals, we have to have vision. That's V. And the vision is, well, Chris was kind of talking, he alluded to it a little bit just a second ago, but vision is having a clear picture of what you want to do moving forward, right? And that why is what drives you to get it done. Now the ownership we talked about, doing it with integrity, not just integrity when you're around other people, but also being true to yourself. Now this is more of a interaction leadership, but communicating is also it's going to always be important. But then making sure that you're empathetic with yourself and those around you, and then also that you're leading yourself and leading others through servant leadership, and that's just kind of the framework that I have for everything that I do. But I think that if you run it through that lens, you're always going to be doing things in a way where you're doing it with integrity, you're doing it without stepping on others, you're going to do things without making sure that that you're not sacrificing yourself, which is what we've talked, our whole last series was about. And just think of that. I mean, I don't want to be too prescriptive either, because that we have 4 episodes we're going to be talking about this, and we'll go over the next one here in a few minutes. But just make sure you're running whatever lens that is. I mean, people use DISC for looking inside themselves. People use all kinds of stuff. Whatever you have to figure out whether or not you're doing what you're supposed to be doing for you and for others, make sure you're doing that. Because identifying what whether or not you are going down your right path is not easy, but you got to be intentional about it.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. Your right path is different from your friend's right path. Like, it's yours for a reason. This, I think, is another place where people get, I don't know, confused is probably the best way to put it, right? Oh, am I supposed to be the best leader for Joe Snuffy? Or am I supposed to be doing what's best for me? I believe in servant leadership mindset. And, I know you do, JJ. It's something that we've talked about, throughout the course of us doing this show over the past couple of years. It's that you get from your people what you put into your people. So when your mindset is to serve your people, then the chances of them going above and beyond and doing the best job possible is far and away, the best way to do it. But that's where the dichotomy is, because not everything you do has to be like to the benefit of other people. You still have to serve you, right? So when you're thinking about, am I the leader that I want to be in 2026? That becomes a component of it. Like, hey, am I serving people in the way that I want to be serving them or should be serving them? But this one piece isn't about anyone else other than you. So, because if it's not personal to you, if it's not like connecting deeply, then you're not going to put in the effort required to make whatever changes might be necessary. So that's where you have to kind of draw the line. This isn't a comparison time. This isn't, keeping up with the Joneses. This is what's best for me. And, we're going to see how that filters out to others.
Well, and think about it this way. I mean, every once in a while, you do have to take care of you. I mean, let's think about it. Have you ever been on an airplane? Well, I know you just were, but
Yeah.
everyone else. You ever been on an airplane and you get that safety brief when you're on the airplane, and they say that if those oxygen masks drop, then you make sure you don yours before you help your neighbor don theirs if they're having a hard time. And why do you do that? Well, you
So,
go
no,
ahead.
I thought you were asking a question, but it's rhetorical.
It is rhetorical. Well, I mean, it is rhetorical because every once in a while you got to take care of yourself so that you can be the best you for yourself and others.
Yes.
And so when you think about whether or not you are happy, whether or not you are leading yourself the way that you want to, you really have to think about that. Because at the end of the day, I mean, you're most people that think this way are very, very critical of themselves anyway. But when it comes time to reinvent yourself, oftentimes we put it on the back burner because we might have people working for us at work, or maybe we are part of a team dynamic, and of course we think that what we do as part of that team dynamic is important. Maybe we don't take time off as much as we probably should. Maybe we don't work on our professional development nearly as much as we should. And when you focus more on others, that's actually good. I mean, that's the servant leadership mentality. But every once in a while, what we're talking about today is taking a break, taking that time to focus on yourself. Maybe even just, not taking a pause from what you're doing at work, even maybe reinventing yourself. Part of it is finishing off that degree that you wanted to take. Maybe I mean, who knows what it is for you, but it's every once in a while you gotta fill that little hole that you have inside of yourself that's missing so that you can be better for yourself and others.
100%. Absolutely.
Yep. And a lot of times we don't do that. My goodness, my entire military career, you know how long it took me to get done with my college credits to the point where I was. I mean, gosh, in order to become a warrant officer, I had to have 60 college credits. And I was working on that goal for a long time. And it took me, I think I was at 11 years in my career before I actually got to the point where I just had 60, not to the point where I'm at now, but just that 60 level. And it's always because I was deploying, or I had to make sure I was taking care of my soldiers, or maybe I was going to do the things that my job required all the time, and I felt like I needed to make sure I put my needs on the back burner so I could take care of my family, take care of my soldiers, take care of the army is what I was doing really and most soldiers feel that way, to be quite honest with you, because that wheel turns so fast that sometimes you don't even know where the hell you are in it. So, I mean, but when it gets to that, every once in a while, just stop, take a break. This is the time to do it.
This is absolutely the time to do it. And one of my favorite sayings along these lines is, if you don't look out for number one, you end up in number two.
Oh, man.
So stay out of the shit and focus on yourself.
Stay out of the shit and focus on yourself. Well, but when you say it like that, stay out of the shit and focus on yourself, we get caught up in the rat race.
We do.
And
you've got to know when to step aside. Like you've got to know when to detach. You and I have done episodes on the importance of detaching. And you've got to know when it's important to focus on you versus focusing on your team or other people. Those are not easy. So,
no.
I just want to clarify that what we're talking about here is not necessarily easy, but it's important if you want to be the best that you can be. That kind of self-care, that looking inwards and saying, all right, where do I need to turn the screws and tweak the dials? Ultimately, it benefits other people by you doing that, but you have to be mindful enough to say, all right, now is the time that I need to stop. I need to focus. I need to kind of step back and, you know what, prioritize an hour of time for me every day in order to achieve a certain goal.
Chris, have you ever seen the television show Hotel Hell? It's got Gordon Ramsay in it.
I've never seen it, but I know of it. I've heard about it. Yes.
Well, my wife and I, we've been kind of on a kick watching that together last night. And I have to bring this up because it fits in perfectly with what we're talking about right now. So Gordon Ramsay, of course, he comes in and he chastises the shit out of everybody there, and he does his thing. But he goes into this, it was like the 5th episode, but he goes into this one hotel, and it's a 2-person operation. They have a small wedding event area, and then the guest house is just big enough for people to stay in. Well, it's a husband and wife operation, and eventually the husband just got super angry, and it wasn't just because Gordon Ramsay is Gordon Ramsay. It was because he was doing some self-reflection, and the wife, she broke down into tears. Well, they started having the conversation in that show where she ended up looking at her husband and saying, I don't even think I'm dreaming anymore. We're just so overwhelmed with what we're doing in this position. And when we're talking about, are you the leader that you want to be? Well, they were so caught up in what they were doing, and they weren't even really winning in what they were doing. They were just going through the motions every day, that they got to the point where there was nothing else anymore. The people that they lost their identity, they lost their goals, they lost their dreams. They didn't even think about that stuff anymore. The only thing they thought about, and gosh, if you're a business owner, really pay attention to this, but they were focusing on how they can get themselves out of the hole. So they were thinking profit, profit, profit. And that's really comparable to anyone in any job. How often have we been working in the same place for 10, 15, 20 years? We may like it, we may not like it, but we've stopped planning on other things. We've stopped, trying to figure out if there was something else for us. Maybe we had big goals to retire, but we've been making 15, 20, 25, $30 an hour for so long. We're not really going anywhere. We're barely paying our bills, but life is just turning out the way life's turning out, and we're not really doing anything about it to change it. We're just, trying really, really hard to get up, make our money, come back home, and then go through life. Well, when we talk about the rat race, I wanted to clarify something. That rat race, sometimes it gets to the point where it's overwhelming and it's comfortable all at the same time. And so I challenge everybody who's listening right now to really, really think about where you are right now. Are you where you wanted to be 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago? Or did you actually have an end state in mind, even if that was just to retire and take some time for you and your family? This is what we're talking about. And you know what? You might think that this is not a good time, but right now is a good time. Tomorrow is a good time. A month from now is a good time. Every day is a good time. So this is what Chris and I are referring to right now.
Yeah. And I think that's a great exercise. If you're watching this, I think it would be very beneficial for you to carve out 30 minutes of your day and reflect back on, hey, 10 years ago, where did I want to be, now, right? And maybe you're one of these people who doesn't set goals and you just kind of let life toss you on the roller coaster. Well, you know what? Here's the thing. If you don't have a plan or think about where you want to go, the roller coaster of life is taking you for the ride anyway. So you might as well dictate where that ride's going to go and how that ride's going to function. Because if you don't, it's happening. Like, time stops for no man and life continues to move on. So, in the same way, JJ, you talked about when you were active in the Army, what your thoughts were was like, all right, what does the big green machine need from me? But then after you left the Army, the big green machine continued to move along down the road.
That big
And
green machine stopped caring about JJ.
well, and unfortunately, I mean that is the case, right?
That's by
Because
design.
but that's a great example because big green machine continues to move just like life continues to move. You chose to, break service and say, "Hey, I want to do X for myself, for my family, for my future." But if you don't choose to make a change, change is not going to happen and you're just along for the ride. And you better buckle up, Buttercup, because sometimes it gets interesting if you don't know where you're going.
Yeah. Well, and you made that comment. If you're that person that doesn't plan, that's not intentional, they just go through the day and pay the bills and do what they got to do. Just ask the question to yourself. There's nothing wrong with doing that. There really is not. As a matter of fact, the world needs people like that are just willing to dig their nose down into the grindstone and just do what they have to do. What they have to do, not what they want to do, what they have to do. But really look back at yourself and say, is this what I want to do? And if it's not what you want to do, what is it that you want to do? And can you sustain a lifestyle doing that thing that you want to do? There's that cliche saying that floats around all over the place. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Plan to fail.
But I truly believe that you don't truly fail until you give up. So if you are failing to plan now and you don't feel like you've given up, your time is now.
Mm-hmm.
Just start being a little bit intentional. And I'm not saying go through, if that's you and you really haven't even considered this stuff, I'm not saying uproot your whole life and quit your job and put yourself in debt and do all the things. No, I'm not saying that at all. Just take tiny little steps to really think about this. Because if retirement is in your futures, maybe you're in your 50s or early 60s and retirement is in your near view, then start thinking about what that looks like. If you're just starting your career and you're on the opposite side, maybe you're in your early 20s and you're just grinding like we all do. Your early 20s is when you should be grinding like crazy, to be quite honest with you. But but if that's you and you're like, man, I do not like this, that is the time where you can make the most immediate change. Because my goodness, when you're in your early 20s, you can go from one thing to another thing to another thing to another thing, and it's your time to experience life.
Yes.
So just be intentional about it. And I mean, that's really all I have to say. I just realized we're at 28 minutes, so we could probably start wrapping this up. What are your closing comments, Chris?
Yeah. My closing comments are, number one, reflect back on the past year, past 5 years, and literally write it down. Write this stuff down, because writing it down, pen and paper, versus putting it on some kind of electronic, whether it's a document or an app or whatever, there's just something different about writing something down, the physical aspect of it. So write down your thoughts, write down your reflection, and then where is it that, there you go, JJ. Where do you want to be? So are you happy, like, going into 2026 and you do that reflection, you're like, you know what, this is where I want to be. Then you know what? You're probably ahead of the crowd. And that's awesome. And now look at the next year. Where do you want to be? But I just want everyone to start with that reflection of, where did I think I'd be at the beginning of 2026 5 years ago? And that's going to be tough because 2021, a lot of us were in a weird headspace because of COVID, and the world was insane 5 years ago, if we're being honest. But that doesn't stop people from setting goals and understanding where their future wants to be. So do some reflection, write it down, and then, think about your plan. In 2 weeks from now, we're going to be talking about, reinvention versus insanity. And, we'll start bringing this together. But for right now, that's the challenge. Do some reflection and some thinking about the past. Are you where you want to be? And then we'll start getting you tuned up for where you want to be.
Yeah. Do me a favor before we start that conversation. Look up the wellness wheel. Not you, Chris, but everybody else who's listening.
I was going to say, wait,
and just get ready for that one, because we're going to kind of dive into what is important to sustain your life. Okay. That's all I got to say. The only thing else that I have to say, you know what? I don't even have my book sitting here. Oh, here it is.
Where's the book, JJ? Come on.
Damn it all. Speak up, show up, lead. Go to Amazon.com and check it out. It's the lessons I've learned in my life. And if it's worthwhile to hear somebody go from all the way at the bottom to somebody who's living intentionally, especially after a career in the military, then this is what the book is all about. Speak up, show up, lead. Go to Amazon.com.
Get the book.
Get the book, and I just dropped it on the floor. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you again for another episode. Don't forget to like the episode, subscribe wherever you're seeing it. But the most important thing is to leave a comment below so we know how you feel about what we're talking about. This is for you, not for us. Thank you again, everybody.
Have a great day.